Neat. So just got a quick video for all you peoples today, at least I'm assuming it's gonna be not that long. So, this garage, right here, needs to fit 4 snowmobiles. Currently, the manual pad thing is in the way. So I am going to cut it down. My plan is cut it about in half. 18 inches. This is 48, turning it down to 18. I might make it taller. I'm not really sure. Whatever isn't too hard. But it's already 8-ish. So my plan is tonight to take the whole thing apart. And then tomorrow morning cut it all down and re-put it together. Let's hope I can do it. Diseases. Wow. See how far I can push this. Yeah! And in the future, time this video, just know I'm probably insane and I'm probably in a psych ward now. And that's why you found this video. So for everybody that has not seen me make this thing, my second video was me making this thing. It's a 4x8 manual pad, like so. I think it's 6 inches tall. So yeah, that's all it is. Anyways, now to the disassembly. So it's all taken apart. 2x6 is 2x4s, this is 4x8 sheet of plywood, 4x8 sheet of masonite, and the 2 angle irons. And all the screws are in those 2 little things. So I will be back when it is hopefully no longer dark out, and once I have had some sleep, yeah. It's 14 hours later, there's sun. I've got all these 2x4s laid out to just be chopped apart. So the first step is to cut these 2x4s down. These were the cross support. So they were the boards that went horizontally back and forth. First step is to cut these down to 15 inches. Right now there are 30 something. I'm gonna make this whole thing 18 inches wide. So 15 inches it is for these. So I have all the pieces cut. I've got that cut to 18, that cut to 14.25. I'll explain why later. I've got those 8-foot pieces, and I've got all these cut to, I think, 15 inches. One of the things that I have decided recently that's actually definitely worth your time is painting or staining or sealing it somehow so it doesn't break down in the weather. So I decided I'm gonna stain it with this stuff right here. I just found it in this garage. So this is what I'm using to stain everything. It should leave that kind of a finish. I'm gonna quick stain everything and I'll be back once that is done. So I got everything stained. It all looks like stained stuff, but I'm out of time right now to make it because we have to leave this in the next about 15 minutes. I'm not gonna be able to finish this right now. I'm gonna need to extend this video another 2 weeks, maybe 3 or 4, I'm not really sure, whenever we come back to this place, and I will finish it. So it's raining. That's always fun. So it's, I don't know, 2 weeks later, 3, 4 weeks later. It's been a long time since I've been here, but everything is now dry. That's what it looks like. I think I said this 4 weeks ago. I stained everything. At least that's what I was doing before now. Yes. So now the next step is just to put it back together. So the first step in the putting back together is just putting together the frame again. These right here, zinc plated screws. So they've got a plating over them. If you scrape the plating off, it looks more like the end of this one. It's more silver colored. Well, the reason that they plate them is to prevent them from rusting. As you can see, the plating wears off pretty quickly. Ideally, you want to be using stainless steel screws for this. But you know how much those are? Those are like 15 bucks a pound. It's insane. Putting your ramp outside, it isn't that big of a deal. You can use whatever the heck you want because it will not be exposed to the elements. If you're in California, I think you'll be fine because you guys still have a drought. So I don't think rust will be an issue, except for if you're on the coast and exposed to salt water, then it's a really big issue. So when you build something, you want it square. I'm not squaring this because it's so flexible when you're just building the frame that you don't really need to square it as long as it's pretty close. You should still, but I'm not gonna. If you wanna go about doing this the proper way and squaring it all throughout the whole process, what you wanna do is you take your tape measure, put it on the corner, take it to the other corner, measure it, so that's 97. You take it back off, you go to the other corner right there, you pull it back out, and you measure. And I can tell you this one's gonna be 99, but tape, dang you tape measure. Give me 1 second. Come on. I hate this tape measure. This tape measure is an appalling human being and does not deserve to live. This one's 99, which is no bueno. Even though this whole outer frame is screwed together, there is still tons of flex in it. That's why I'm not squaring it, is I'm gonna use the plywood to square it. So as you can probably tell, not all these boards are completely straight. That's fine, because look at this. You can move them. I'm assembling this slightly different than how I would put together, say, a ramp or something bigger than like 2 feet wide, because it's only 2 feet wide. The reason that I can assemble it this way is because of the weight. Since it's so light, the screws will not pull out. So I can just pick this side up, and even though these boards are only screwed in on one side, they don't break or anything because they're so short. Which makes assembly easier because you can be less careful when it's only this wide. So I have a problem I just realized. If you look from right here, everything looks fine. I mean, it looks like it fits and everything. But right once you come over here, you notice that there's a lip. Just a little, I would probably say 3/8 of an inch edge right through here. All the way down to about the corner, but the corner is in the right spot. The board is warped, which there were 2 things I could have done, but I didn't. First of all, could have got different screws. You might ask, how does that make a difference at all? So we have 2 2x4s we're gonna fasten together. And we got this screw to do it. Now, the problem is, if you look at the screw, there's a threaded portion and then there's a non-threaded portion right there. When you screw a screw in, it's twisting in the board and the threads on it are going down like that. They're spinning and going in. That's how it works. That's what pulls the screw in, is the threads, right? So, when you screw it in, it's getting pulled through, pulled through, pulled through. Once it's right here, it's not into this board whatsoever, so nothing's pulling it into this board. So sometimes you'll get a gap. This will push out like that as it's trying to get a hole made, and then it'll eventually get a hole made, get caught in there, and start pulling itself through, and now you're in there. But if you look, we've got the screw fully in, and we've now got a gap. If you tighten the screw down more, you've still got threads right here, so it's just gonna pull it in farther. That's all it does, until you get to right here. Then, since there's nothing holding it here, it'll pull this board in. Let me show you it in action. So we have two boards. Let me quick get it started in the top board. I'm gonna try and screw it in without stripping it. Now, if I were to just be standing on it in it instead, or no, let's make a gap. Let's make the gap. Now we got a gap right here. You see the gap still? There's still a gap. Now, I'm gonna even flip this over. Stand on this part. That gap is still there. I can keep on screwing. It finally closed because the threaded portion has basically left the board. There's no more threaded portion. Now that this screw is inside the board, it's only got the threaded portion on the set. If I were to cut this in half so you can see the screw, it'd look like this to a point. What you ideally want is a screw with no threads all the way down to here, because then it'll pull the boards together. That is what I should have done, is got screws like that. Okay, so there's no real reason for me to redo this because it should be fine. It'll just look a little worse, but that ain't okay. It needs to look perfect. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it back apart, and I'm gonna show you the even easier way to fix this problem. Because thinking about it, it's incredibly easy, and this is how you should build a manual pad if you build one like this. So I'm actually gonna quick disassemble this whole thing, and we're gonna start over. You're probably thinking, why the heck would you do that? Let me quick show you why. Do you remember how I said I cut this smaller than the actual top piece? That's because when I set this in here, it looks like the wrong size. But this is the plan. These are gonna be next to each other. Because if you look, it's flat right here. There is no reason for this. I just felt like it. But if you look, there's a gap right there. That's because that gap right there. This gap needs to go away. So I'm going to quick disassemble the whole thing again, and I'll be right back once that's done.